Deep underground in an undisclosed location, Trend Comics presents G.I. Joe, a real American hero. G.I. Joe, a real American hero, also known as Action Force in the UK, is a half-hour American animated television series created by Ron Friedman. Based on the toy line from Hasbro, the cartoon ran in syndication from 1983 to 1986. When Hasbro launched G.I. Joe, a real American hero toy line in 1982 alongside the Marvel Comics series, it commissioned Marvel Productions to produce a series of fully animated 30-second television commercials, which were broadcast in order to promote the toys into comics, beginning with an ad for the first issue that aired throughout the spring of 1982. The popularity of these commercials led to the production of a 5-part G.I. Joe miniseries, which aired in 1983, later known as the M.A.S.S device, when it re-aired during the series syndication. The plot centers on the M.A.S.S device, a powerful matter transporter, and G.I. Joe and Cobra race around the world to acquire 3 catalytic elements which power the machine. A second 5-part miniseries followed in 1984, The Revenge of Cobra, with a similar plot that involved the Joes and Cobra traveling around the world to discover the shattered fragments of Cobra's new weather-controlling weapon, the Weather Dominator. Both miniseries were written by Ron Friedman. G.I. Joe was promoted to a full series in 1985, with an initial order for the first season of 55 more episodes, in order to make up for the required 65 episodes for syndication. This season began with a third Friedman-penned 5-part adventure, The Pyramid of Darkness. The story sees most of the existing cast from the 2 previous miniseries held captive by Cobra, while a new assortment of characters, that is, the new 1985 range of toys, thwart Cobra's attempt to surround the Earth with electricity-negating Pyramid of Darkness. Both the new and old characters then shared the spotlight throughout the course of the remaining 50 episodes of the series, which were primarily standalone, single episodes of adventures with the occasional 2-part story. A second season of 30 episodes followed in 1986, beginning with a 4th 5-part story, Arise, Serpentor, Arise, in which Cobra scientist Dr. Mindbender, inspired by a dream, uses the DNA of history's most ruthless conquerors and rulers to genetically engineer Serpentor, who upserves Cobra Commander's leadership of Cobra. This miniseries introduced the new 1986 range of toys into the story, which were at the center of most of the stories across the rest of the season. In particular, the miniseries debuted former WWF and then current AWA professional wrestler Sergeant Slaughter as a member of G.I. Joe, played by himself. G.I. Joe the movie, a feature-length film version of the series, was intended to be released theatrically following the release of Transformers the movie. However, the movie encountered unexpected production delays, which allowed the Transformers feature film to be released first. Due to the poor box office performance of Transformers and My Little Pony films, G.I. Joe was regulated to direct-to-video status. The release on VHS on April 20th, 1987, and was later split into a 5-part miniseries for television syndication. The movie follows up on the events of Season 2, revealing that Cobra Commander is actually an agent of a secret civilization known as Cobra La, led by a half-serpent being named Galabulus. The same organization is also revealed to have had a hand in the creation of Serpentor, because the dream that inspired Dr. Mindbender to create him was actually a subconscious suggestion that was implanted into his brain by one of Galabulus's bugs. In addition to Cobra Law, 2 new sub-teams were introduced within the Joe team, the Rawhides and the Renegades, both of which were composed of characters that were introduced into the toy line during its 1987 lineup. Marvel Productions continued to produce the animated commercials for the toy line and comic books, which featured a new theme song with lyrics, "Nobody Beats G.I. Joe," after the broadcast of G.I. Joe the movie, which was intended to set up Season 3. However, the company never got around to producing a 3rd season, because it ended up losing its license due to the competing animation company DIC during pre-production. Michael Charles Hill, who wrote several episodes of the show, had already proposed an outline for Season 3 that would have followed the events of G.I. Joe the movie. In this unmade 3rd season, a criminal organization named The Coil, which is composed of a group of former Cobra elites who were led by Tomax and Zama, would have served as a new enemy faction, while mutated Cobra Commander would have tried to secretly rebuild his organization after the destruction of Cobra Law, shifting allegiance between the Coil and the Joes in order to further his ambitions. G.I. Joe was a co-production between Marvel Productions and Sunbow Productions. Sunbow's staff would write the scripts based on the characters and vehicle designs provided by Hasbro, while the artists at Marvel Productions would draw storyboards based on the scripts and record voiceovers. The animation was outsourced to Toei in Japan, who worked on all 95 episodes, as well as G.I. Joe the movie. The G.I. Joe comics and animated series share a few common plot elements that were not products of the toy lines, such as the town of Springfield, the October Guard, and the character of the Baroness, who was only introduced into the toy line in 1984. However, they did not share the same continuity, and as of a result, they differed significantly in terms of how the characters were written and the directions the stories took, particularly regarding the nature of Cobra Commander's true identity. In contrast to the comics, in which non-toy line characters such as G.I. Joe Commanding Officer General Flag and Cobra Scientist Dr. Venom were killed off early during its run, the TV series had to adhere to child programming regulations, and as a result, none of the characters were allowed to use actual firearms, and nobody was ever killed on screen. Instead, characters used laser guns to fight their battles, which were color-coded for each side, red for the Joes and blue for Cobra. Whenever a vehicle was destroyed on screen, the pilot or driver would often be shown exiting from it or parachuting before the destruction. However, the show was still allowed to make reference to off-screen casualties, as the term could be used interchangeably for injuries or death. One particular episode in Season 1, a 2-parter entitled Worlds Without End, in which the Joes are transported to an alternate universe where the Joes have been defeated by Cobra, feature a scene in which 3 members of the Joe team, Steeler, Grunt, and Clutch, find the skeletal remains of their counterparts from that world. The second part of the episode ends with the aforementioned characters deciding to remain in the alternate universe and replace their deceased counterparts. A public safety lesson was usually featured at the end of each episode, using G.I. Joe characters in brief scenarios to impart safety tips to children. These lessons gave birth to the catchphrase, "And knowing is half the battle." In each episode's opening title sequence, voice actor Jackson Beck stated that G.I. Joe is the code name for America's daring, highly trained Special Mission Force. Its purpose, to defend human freedoms against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world. Because the series was produced as a vehicle to sell the toys, most of the episodes would focus on the newest characters being sold in stores at the time, while older characters would fall by the wayside as they were being phased out from the toy line. Most notably, Hawk, who was part of the 1982 launch lineup and the original G.I. Joe leader in the Marvel Comics, was absent during the entirety of Season 1 in favor of having Duke, a character introduced in 1983, the year when the first miniseries aired, to serve as the leader instead. When Hawk was reintroduced into the toy line with a new action figure in 1986, the character was suddenly part of the team in Season 2 as Duke's superior and the head of G.I. Joe's chain of command, with no explanation for his absence in prior seasons.
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcement. And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo Joe.
Are you gonna wear that sissy thing?
It's called a life jacket.
Oh, I don't need one. Prepare to come about. Ah! Help!
Gotcha!
Deep Six, you're a lifesaver.
And a life jacket's good protection.
Yeah, like seatbelts in a car. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo Joe.
Hey, great treehouse! I built it in 2 days and I didn't even follow any plans. Why waste time?
Hold on!
Whoa!
Gotcha!
Quick kick! I guess I was in too big of a hurry.
Remember, anything worth doing is worth planning. If you don't plan...
You're out on a limb. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo Joe.
Hey Joey, watch this! Dave, you come back! The ice get break! You're breaking my heart! Ah! Help me!
Hold it! Don't go on the ice! You'll only add more weight!
Snow job!
Find something that'll reach. This branch ought to work. Remember, frozen ponds and rivers may not be totally frozen.
We could be skating on thin ice. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo Joe.
Oh no! My kitten's lost! I'll help you find her. We don't have time to waste.
Blind does not mean you cannot see how to solve problems. Let's all look.
No luck. Can't find her. You found Puppy! I heard her meowing.
Mark has learned to use his other senses better. Remember, having a handicap
Doesn't mean you're helpless. Now we know.
and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Mom know you're cooking?
No, no one's home but me.
She'll know now. Fire!
Call the fire department.
Not from in there.
Blowtorch.
If there's a real fire in your house, your first job is to escape immediately. Fire spreads quickly. Call the fire department from outside the house.
From a neighbor's phone.
You got it. You're both safe.
Your advice really hit home. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Hey, where's John?
What's all the excitement?
Wakanda. We can't find John. He was heading that way.
Oh, no. Check that old refrigerator.
Thanks, Wakanda.
Remember, never get in anything that could close up and trap you.
Like an old trunk or an abandoned refrigerator. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe. And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Stay with me. I'm on you like glue.
All right. Hi, guys. Can I skate with you?
Nah, you're just a girl.
No kidding.
Go ho!
Let her try. You might be surprised.
Okay, but thanks. Wow, look at that.
Don't judge people till you give them a chance.
Because there's a chance you could be wrong. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Your mom had an accident. I'll take you to her. Uh-oh.
Look, Wild Bill.
Who was that?
Some stranger. He said Donnie's mom was hurt. I didn't know if I should go with him.
Well, just don't do what a stranger says. Check it out with an adult you know. Remember, a stranger
Can mean danger. Now I know.
and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Hi, doggy. Nice doggy. Here, boy. Come on. Hi, fella. Hey!
Don't run.
What?
Walk away slowly.
He tried to bite me.
Never try to pet an animal you don't know. He may be lost, sick, or scared.
You mean he might be dangerous.
That's right. If we don't know, we leave him alone.
And we don't get bit. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Hey, watch this. You're gonna pull that alarm? Why not? It'll be fun.
That kind of fun can cost a life.
Barbecue.
False alarms are no joke. They keep firefighters away from the real action. And in this business, a few seconds can mean the difference between life and death. Remember, a firefighter's job is to fight fires.
Not answer false alarms. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Let's get out of here.
I'm staying. I'm not a scaredy cat.
No, but you could be a dead cat.
Deep six.
Quick, swim to shore. At even the hint of a thunderstorm, get right out of the water.
Thanks. Your advice is electrifying.
If this happens again, you'll know what to do.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Bobby, my stomach hurts. Oh, I'll give you some of Dad's medicine. It's real strong stuff.
It's a prescription for danger.
Doc!
Never take medicine without a grown-up present. You could do more harm than good.
What should we do?
If you can, wait for your parents. Or if it's serious, ask a neighbor for help.
Hey, Mom's home.
Now you'll get help.
And now we know what to do next time.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Boy, am I hungry.
What do you want?
Maybe I'll get an apple.
An apple? Let's buy some candy.
Hold on, fellas.
Lifeline!
Listen to your friend Terrell. He's got the right idea.
Yeah, you never catch an NBA player eating a candy bar for a game.
A candy bar might give you a quick boost of energy, but after 20 minutes, you'll feel run down. So let's eat smart.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Strike three!
How can you miss that? I quit.
You don't see the real problem.
Ripcord!
Having your eyes tested may clear things up.
Great game!
Don't avoid a problem, meet it.
And beat it. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
You okay? My nose is bleeding. Put your head back.
That's the wrong play.
Footloose!
Pinch your nose closed and lean forward. If it doesn't stop in 5 minutes, we'll pack your nose with gauze and pinch it closed for 10 more minutes. If it's still bleeding, then see a doctor.
The bleeding stopped. Now we know how to stop a nosebleed.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
See ya! Help me! Somebody help me! Torpedo!
Keep cool! Use your head, don't lose it! Open and close your legs like a scissor. Keep up a steady rhythm. Now cup your hands downward and move them in a figure 8 motion.
I'm treading water.
You got it. Never play around water alone.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Hold on there.
Cutter! They started it. We did not.
Well, fighting won't stop it. When people disagree, sometimes they need someone who's not involved to settle things.
Johnny could He's not rooting for either team.
Good thinking. Instead of fighting when you disagree, look for a better way.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Johnny, catch! Oh no! Let's tell Mom it was Billy's mistake.
You're making the mistake.
Flint!
Anyone can have an accident, but lying makes it worse.
But Mom will be upset.
She'll be even more upset if you lie. And how would you feel if Billy got punished? Face up to what you've done. Don't take the easy way out.
We'll tell her we did it.
Remember, it's better to tell the truth.
And that's no lie. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Hey, Bob, want to paint your name?
No thanks.
What are you, a sissy? Prove you're not or we'll tell everybody.
I just don't feel right about it.
Right on.
Flint!
It's hard not to follow the crowd, but sometimes that path is just a dead end.
I knew I was right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Me too.
Remember, listen to yourself.
Because I know what's best for me.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Look, the storm knocked down that big wire.
Hey, let's jump our bikes over it.
Now, we better move it off the road.
No, you better leave that power line right where it is. There's enough electricity there to fry an elephant.
We didn't think it was dangerous.
You'd have found out too late. Remember, never play around electrical wires or you could be playing with fire.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe. And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
I'm running away from home. My parents are mean. Where'll you go? I'm not sure, but I'll show them.
That's right. You'll show them how mean you can be.
Shipwreck!
Isn't it better to try to solve problems instead of running away from them?
I could try talking to my parents again.
Yeah, tell them how you feel. And remember, running away
Leads nowhere. Now I know. And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
We shouldn't be in here. Let's go.
Okay, follow me. What's the matter, you chicken?
I can't jump that far.
Okay, chicken, I'm leaving you here. Use your head, Sally.
Lady J.
There's nothing chicken about being smart. If you stop and think, there's almost always a better way.
I use this plank.
That's using your head.
Instead of losing it. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Nice bike. Maybe we could borrow it? No, that's stealing. I'll ask for permission later.
Uh-oh. Looks like you're asking for trouble now.
Shipwreck!
How would you like it if someone took your bike?
I wouldn't.
And if you get caught?
I'd definitely end up in trouble.
Remember, taking something that isn't yours just isn't right.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Turkey, now we might lose.
Hold on there.
Flint!
Will yelling at Billy help?
Not really.
Look, if you want to play your best, you got to play like a team.
It's tied up!
The next time you get angry over a bad play, remember you need teamwork to win, not arguments.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
It's getting dark. Slow down. It's hard to see. Look out. A
and I couldn't see you. No wonder you don't have reflectors. They tell drivers where you are.
I see what you mean.
Remember, if you have to ride when it's getting dark, have the right equipment.
And wear bright clothes. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Way to go! Follow me! Nice bike! Thanks, want to ride? Sure, got a helmet?
A helmet? What are you, some kind of wimp?
No, I just...
Jonathan's just using common sense.
Beachhead! Cross country!
That was a close call. You all right?
Yeah, thanks.
These ATVs have as much power as a real motorcycle. You gotta respect them.
And wear helmets for protection.
Now we know!
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Look at all the people. Billy, what's the matter? Billy! My friend passed out. Help me get him up.
Never lift the head of a person who's fainted.
Airtight.
Keep him flat and raise his legs. Now loosen his clothes and use a wet cloth.
What happened?
You passed out. Remember, if someone faints,
Never lift their head.
you got it.
Now we know.
And knowing's half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Boy, what a great campsite. Yeah, here's more wood for the fire. Now my clothes are on fire. Run for the stream.
Don't run! Here, let me wrap this around you. You okay?
Lucky thing you were around, Spirit.
Lucky thing you didn't run. Remember, running only makes the fire worse. If your clothes catch fire, wrap yourself in a rug or blanket.
And roll on the ground to smother the flames. Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Smoke! Let's get out of here! Ow!
Don't go out that door.
It's barbecue!
You might let in poisonous gases. Stuff something under the door. And stay low. That way you avoid the heat and gases that rise upward. Remember, if a fire breaks out in your home, always test the door first. If it's hot, find another exit or yell for help.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
Stay close, Tony, so you don't get lost.
Hey, look at that. I can do that. Hey, Mike! Where are you? Mike!
Hey, take it easy.
But I lost my brother and...
Stay calm. Think. Where did you see him last? Go back there. If he doesn't come back, ask a policeman for help.
Hey, it's Alpine and my scared brother.
It's not scary being lost if you don't lose your head. Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
And now Tread Comics is proud to present the G.I. Joe public service announcements. Yo, Joe.
I'll never learn to ski.
Especially if you quit trying.
Scarlet!
You'll never win if you give in.
But I just can't do it.
Can you ride a bike?
Well, sure I can.
But could you at first?
No, I had to practice for weeks. I think I'm getting the hang of it.
That's because you hung in there.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!